tardes, buenas noches, wherever you may be today. Welcome. I am Eric Miscoll, publisher EMSNOW, and welcome to this edition of the virtual EMS Eric Miscoll Show. We appreciate those joining for taking time to listen in today. I will remind you that you are all on mute. If you have a question you wish to pose, please use the question tab at the bottom of the screen, and this show is being recorded and will be republished within the week, probably next Monday morning, actually, at this point, on EMSNOW, so look for that as well. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, the dashing and debonair Philip Stoten, who comes to us from Australia these days. And the focus of our discussion today is on the EMS industry in Mexico. And so to that end, we've invited a panel of people who all operate within that industry. And so we should be able to get some good insights out of them, I hope. Let me introduce them in brief, in alphabetical order, so as not to show favorites. We'll begin with Bernardo Diblidox, who's leads the Global Business Services and Enterprise Program Management within Flex. We then have Juan Fregoso, who is the Managing Director for Mexico and Europe, I believe, for Supply Chain Resources Group. And then, of course, Ivan Romo, who is the Director of SMarTsol. So we have people from with an EMS company, consulting company, and also one of the largest rep firms in Mexico here. So welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for taking time for joining us today. We really appreciate this. Why don't we begin by going around and allowing each of you just to introduce yourself in brief and also your company, so to give some context for our viewers as to who you are and why they should listen to your opinions. And Bernardo, why don't we begin with you, sir?
Hello everybody. My name, again, Bernardo Dibildox. I'm the General Manager for the Global Business Services Center in Guadalajara. It's a group of about 900 collaborators in which we do different activities: finance, IT, HR, and engineering and quality, mainly to the Americas group or to the Americas region, even though there's some guys that does it for the rest of the world. I've been in Flex for almost 16 years in the different positions, mainly commercial, program management, and general manager, the last ones. So thank you for inviting us, and glad to say hopefully something interesting for you.
Very good. Juan, please, if you mind.
Hello. Well, I run supply chain resource. Sorry?
No, please go.
I run okay, sorry. I run a supply chain resource group in Mexico, formerly Riverwood Solutions. We have almost 13 years of colleagues from the EMS industry. We provide services for OEM companies to help them source products and suppliers from around the world. We have offices in China, Vietnam, Mexico, and the US. We are a group of around 150 people, and we become basically their eyes on the ground on the EMS industry, basically, but we also have expanded our services in many other industries.
Excellent, very good. And Ivan?
Yeah, well, I'm the general manager for SMarTsol. SMarTsol has almost 9 years in the industry, and my experience is 23 years in the electronic assembly industry. We do business for the main capital equipment companies in the SMT world, like ASM Assembly Systems, Nordson Test and Inspections, Ames Solder, Kaizen, and others, BTU, reflow ovens. So basically, for some of these companies, we do the sales and also the service and applications for all Mexico, managing spare parts, training centers. We have operations in Guadalajara, Querétaro, Ciudad Juárez, Reynosa, Monterrey, and Tijuana.
Very good. Thank you. Very good. So to begin, why don't we just start, I mean, the big elephant in the room is always the pandemic that we've all been living through. And so I'd like to ask kind of what the impact the pandemic has had on on your operations and where do they stand today? And maybe Bernardo, we come back to you.
Yes, okay, it was a pandemic. It obviously impacted everybody, right? So in the GBS group has 3 main locations, one of them in China. So initially we had the opportunity, initially impacted in China, and we had the opportunity to learn a little bit. Honestly, we thought that it was not coming that fast to this side of the world. However, when it came, the company moved really fast in order to, first of all, take care of the employees. I'm glad to say that we really meant it. And mainly we stopped traveling. We push almost every position in our group can be handled remotely. So we move everybody to the home office. And Flex did it not only for GBS, but did it for everybody that was able to work from home. In our case, Mexico was really good prepared for being, we pretty fast moved 99% of the people to working from home. We are still there. We are actually learning a lot from this pandemic on regards to what you can do remotely. And as well, I believe the operations portion of the site is learning as well, that you can really do it without being physically. There's a learning curve, obviously, and we went through that. Right now, we are still working from the office. We're giving priority, from home. We're giving priority to the operations to come back and monitoring that those people that is coming back is safe. The sites, we did a bunch of activities, checkpoints, sanitization, social distancing, and you really go, if you go to a site, you feel pretty confident that it's safe to work there.
Yeah.
So that's the current state in where we are. Obviously on the operation, there's a lot of impacts on supply chain and a lot of impacts on some of the business shutting down, like automotive. But at the same time, the health solution picked up. So there was a lot of demand for devices that Flex produces, like respirators, ventilators, and those things. So quite interesting stories about some fast ramp up. So that's pretty much where we are.
Yeah, and where do you think you are with respect to percentage of capacity that you're running at? You were running pre-pandemic, you were running pretty close to full capacity. How much of that's back?
I don't really have a number. What I can see on the whatever Flex publishes, I will believe that there was an impact of about 20-25% in regards to the revenue, and then the health solution picked up. And I start seeing that we're getting closer, at least to the projections. In the case of Flex, it's a little bit difficult because the prior year there was a big effort from the corporate to clean up the customers and to make sure that we focus on the right mix of customers. So we were already seeing some decline because of that cleanup, and then the pandemic made a little bit of noise. However, while some were going down, like I was saying, the medical one were picking up really dramatic. So I'm not really sure there's a number in regards to capacity, but I can see maybe the numbers about 80-85% of previous pandemic revenue.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Juan, why don't you tell us about how it's impacted Supply Chain Resources Group?
Well, for ourselves, in the way that we operate our business was really not an impact at all, because we are in the space of consulting and virtual. Actually, we have a service called BOT, Virtual Operations Team. So we're used to work remotely, and we were prepared for this. So for us, it's business as usual. Of course, we have been having some restrictions on travel to visit our customers, but in terms of our customers, we see that the pandemic came here just to accelerate an already started process of moving supply chains, mainly from China to Mexico. There was a tendency already started, And this situation just came to accelerate it. Prior to the pandemic, there were some tariff threats from U.S. government to China products. So that triggered the start of this supply chain transformation. And with the pandemic, most of our customers realized that what they had in their plans, in the past, it was SARS, it was, you name it, there was a number of situations outside impacting their supply chains from China, and this just make them take the decision. So we are actually starting to support customers within the pandemic restrictions to move their supply chains already from China to Mexico. Not to mention, of course, the impact of the lack of material, the shortages and everything.
Yeah, so you guys have been busier than ever, but I think what's interesting with you guys, Juan, is you have people deployed in all those locations. So the fact that you can't travel to China or to Vietnam isn't so much of a problem. It's more of a problem for the OEMs. You're able to be the boots on the ground and the eyes and the ears in the factory because you have people in those locations anyway. That must have made those guys much busier.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, when I mentioned travel restriction was just to visit new customers, but the existing customers and the presence that we have in low-cost regions to manage their operations is still there. We're providing, actually we're growing with some of our customers because now they need more, they need more eyes on the ground. And some of our other customers, they need more virtual support. So we usually provide eyes on the ground in China and virtual operations teams in Mexico.
Yeah, well, I think we'll get on to that supply chain correction thing because I think that's really interesting as well. But let's talk to Ivan first about his experience.
That has to be music to your ears, Ivan, what he's talking about there, right?
You know, all the recovery, always the bottleneck needs to be the raw material. So the material availability, once material is already here, equipment can be moved faster. But I will talk about in two different ways about the impact. One is the way that we work in the SMarTsol office and how is impacting the market. Basically, 15 of our service engineers is still with 80% utilization during the last 6 months. So the service group never stopped. They still visiting customers because they need to keep the lines running, doing the maintenance. A lot of customers, if they got any production reduction, it was the right time to do upgrades, maintenance. So our people have been always visiting the customers. Of course, we are doing the COVID test to all our people. We have implemented the fast test. We made 23, and the PCR, we have made 22 tests during the last 3-4 months. A lot of customers are requesting to our people to show the negative results before to do the service. So the way that we did in the office, we still having 50% of the administrative people working from home. During the worst times, we have only 1 or 2 people doing here the coverage of the office, but they never stop doing home office. The sales guys, they are still doing home office, 100% of them. If they are allowed to visit the customers with some restrictions and controls, they can visit customers. If not, phone and teleconference has been the new way to do business. In the past, we never need to have special webcams and conference systems here in the meeting rooms. Right now, we have a lot of cameras, a lot of microphones in all the office in order to do more webinars, to do more training remote, and to more sales presentations remotely. And about the business impact, honestly, we don't see any impact. While the Mexico GPD is minus 18.7%, we can say that SMarTsol in the end of July, it was with a growth of 12%. And at the end of August, we see, we just got the reports a few minutes ago, a growth of 14% versus the 2019. So really it was no impact. Of course, April, May, it was the worst month because most of the companies put on hold to release the orders. But since July, we see a tremendous requirement for the equipment. A lot of requirement to do 3-6 months rental for equipment in the meantime that they get the CapEx approvals. And we are also helping the customers with that. You know, the main problem that we have here during the COVID-19 pandemic is the way that the Mexicans are. We always use the handshake, and most of the time with a kiss and a hug. So right now we need to wear the mask. We need to stay 2 meters away. So we need to learn how to do business, how to have the friends, how to live with that social distance. Is the most tough things. But I'm very proud of the electronic industry because while other segments in Mexico, like entertainment, is 45% lower than previous year, and tourism is 39%. Electronic industry is not having that impact. So very proud of how the industry in general is having the right actions to keep the business.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you say, Ivan. Having spent quite a lot of time in Guadalajara, social distancing isn't a natural thing, is it? We're used to getting close and hugging and sharing a beer, and that's a really important part of Mexican life. You mentioned that you were up 12% on last year. Realistically, do you think you would have been up even more without COVID, or do you think you've really not seen too much impact? I was actually talking to a couple of companies that have actually put in good results in this year, but had said, you know, without COVID, it would have been even better, because you've been on a growth ramp for a while.
I have many years saying that there is a crystal ball to see what is the future of the electronics, but I see a lot of fog signs 10, 12 years ago where we can make plans. I mean, you know, our company has been growing so fast because the industry is very good with us. We have the leaders in the industry. I mean, right now, everybody wants to optimize with the HX rays, with just AOIs. So that number is still huge, right? And of course, to replace the screen printers, to enhance the production of one-line additional pick and place. So my prediction for TGSC was only 15% growth because last year it was 24. So the prediction of 15, because well, we are largest, as you are largest, is more tough to grow. But we really feel that we are going to meet the 15% at the end of the year. Because a lot of new companies, as you mentioned, Foxconn is growing a lot of the operations. A lot of European companies are also doing startups in Mexico. And a lot of equipment replacement. So I mean, right now the industry in general is having a combination of challenge and opportunities. A lot of technology transition in the automotive market, for example, that is requiring to reinvent the way to manufacture in Mexico.
Yeah, there's a digital transformation element there as well. And I think that's one of the areas we want to cover, as well as that supply chain transformation you mentioned. But just one thing with respect to what you were saying about demand, you talked a bit about people renting equipment for 3 to 6 months before they get their CapEx. Are you seeing pressure on CapEx and people wanting to shift to more of an OpEx model?
My opinion is that they are getting the CapEx right in the time that they need to start producing. So that's why we are offering now a turnkey solution. When we bring the machine into Mexico, we keep the machines into our warehouses and just delivering 1 or 2 days after having the PO. And most of the times, just with an intention letter, delivering 3-4 weeks before of POs, because The time scale of the industry is very, very tight now.
Yeah, everything's more urgent.
So, let's get into that issue. And Juan, you teased it, and it's the big issue, which is globally we're talking about reshoring as a result of the pandemic. And you alluded to the fact that Mexico is obviously a beneficiary of that, especially with people wanting to move out of Mexico. So we saw that
China.
From China, excuse me. We see both the Foxconn and Pegatron have been referenced here as making an announcement. We saw that this week, I believe it was, of moving here. And I've seen other smaller EMS companies who are either expanding or establishing facilities down there. So let's talk about that. I've always thought the great benefit of Mexico has always been the proximity to the United States, right? And I think that benefit continues, but then certainly with all the interest of Asian companies, it really underscores the value and that Mexico has to offer to the industry. So Juan, maybe we start with you. How do you see this reshoring? You're talking to the customers. Is it real?
Yes, it's real. It's actually something happening as we speak. I'm actually right now sitting at the office of one of our customers that we had to develop a virtual supply chain. We have to develop a supply chain virtually because we couldn't be visiting plants or whatsoever. So we had to do PCIs and product inspections and audits on Mexican facilities for new products for them that they were buying from China in the past. So not only companies, but also products. That's the point. Not only EMS companies are looking into setting up operations in Mexico, but also OEMs, but also American companies supplying raw material or products from Mexico. So that's what I see, that the whole supply chain is actually moving really, really fast to Mexico. To put an example of this company that I'm working with right now, it's a steel company. They just transform some steel and they distribute steel in the US, and they were buying raw steel from China and preform it in the US and then distribute it in the US. Now they started to buy raw material from Mexico with very similar quality from China. And this is a commodity where approximately 88 to 90% of the cost is the material itself, and it has only a room for 10 to 12% for value added. But then now the Mexican suppliers are adding value, not only the proximity, the time to market, the service, but also they are starting to add operations and add more value in such a way that they are becoming built to order, configured to order model, which is very common in the EMS industry, but now it's been extrapolated to many other industries. So when you see raw material moving, then you have to take it seriously, because it's not only assembly and labor and manufacturing. Raw material is also moving to Mexico. That's going to be very heavy impacting the rest of the industry, to my view.
Yeah, because the supply chain, it's the depth of the supply chain. And in China, that supply chain is very deep through all the layers. And that's always been, part of what makes it compelling. Bernardo, with the global accounts that you manage, are some of them saying, we need to reduce our dependence on China, let's change the mix, let's rebalance the supply chain, so we've got maybe more in Eastern Europe, more in the Americas, more in places like Mexico?
Yes, definitely. There's a lot of the customers with this last pandemic and all the things with Trump and all the things that are happening. It is really looking into depend less on one region. I think that is a fact. I see that there's some projects coming, a lot of opportunities that are on the review. We have the disadvantage that the government is not pretty smart on whatever they are announcing to the world. So there has been some people that is a little bit reluctant, but at the end of the day, I think it's coming this way. we are pretty close to the States. The capabilities here, the talent is here, the logistics is easy for them. So it's just a matter of timing. Now, the other thing I am seeing is that at the end of the day, and in this pandemic and a little bit of uncertainty, cash is king. So some companies they want to move it, but they don't want to do the investment perhaps in this particular moment. In some cases, they want the vendor or the manufacturers to do the investment. And I believe that is a little bit on a hold. But at the end of the day, I think we are getting a lot of that. I know Trump is pushing to gain some of that. So now our competition is not only some other low-cost regions, but as well, whatever Trump is giving them to incentivize the return to Americas.
US, yeah.
Because I saw some factories moving from China to the United States, amazingly, but true, in some like tools and handcraft tools. Those electrical tools are coming back to the States. And I believe they want to rebuild the supply chain. At the end, I think it was too much to move to China, and there were some products in which they were end-to-end done there, and nobody else could do it. And I believe that the countries and the companies are realizing that, and everybody's trying to protect for whatever else we might get into the future.
Yeah, and you've got a correction in the supply chain there that you mentioned, but as you say, you've got challenges in terms of what are all the local incentives going to be. And, you know, I'm always curious what people would do if they were in power, because I think protectionism is rarely a good solution, and it's how you invest that government money in making manufacturing more competitive. Ivan, my view on that tends to be that it's digital transformation, and that's what you should do. And that's what they should be investing money in, making each industry more competitive. But before we get on to that, from your point of view, are you seeing a lot of new inquiries for equipment from companies like Asian companies that want to move to Mexico, companies like Europeans that want to move to Mexico? Are you getting calls from new companies that you've not maybe had as deep contact with before, that are looking to invest in Mexico?
Yes, we can say that there are 2 new companies every month, electronic assembly companies that are moving. Some of the negotiations are being taking place in Taiwan, in China, or in France or Spain, some of them. And yes, we can say that 50% of the equipment that they're going to use in Mexico is going to be transferred, but the other 50% is going to be new acquisitions. So, but as I told you before, everybody's expecting no more than 5 weeks to have the machines already in Mexico. So yeah, that's the main challenge, because during the COVID, the air freight costs went up to 5 times more expensive. So the sea freight, it was almost 50–60%. So the strategy that we took is to increase the local inventory of machines in United States and in Mexico, just to speed up some of the deliveries and to reduce the impact of the air freight cost for the end customers. So if they need to fly, let's say a router machine, that we sell around 50 machines every year from Elite, the panelizers. So basically, the air freight cost in the past used to be $13,000 per machine. 2 months ago, it was $50,000. So no way. So basically, we move 3 machines into a container, and we transfer the cost to the end customer, just a couple $1,000s. So that is the value add that we are offering to the customers right now. The same with the consumables, like the solder paste, Kaizen. We have a complete warehouse just beside me, complete of Kaizen cleaning products, and that is being delivered next day. So that's the way that the market is demanding now to be prepared. And just adding some of the Bernardo comments, I mean, Mexico is ready. We don't have the right government at this point, but that is bringing some benefits to the electronic industry because the exchange rate, August 2019 versus August 2020 is 15% more. So that means that the labor is 15% lower cost for the end user. So that is a good for the industry. And there are at least 10 million of people coming from the informal trade that they are not been doing good in the last months because the lockdown. So right now they are looking to have a formal job. So that means that a lot of people available to join the formal companies like the ones in the electronic industry, because the electronic assembly industry is one of the industries with better salaries and a complete package of benefits and compensation for the people. So that's why it's one of the most stable industries in the country.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting there, Ivan, sorry, is that Eric, is that you're getting creative with solutions. You know, you're stocking more stuff locally. You're having to change your model, but maybe some of those changes will be for the better and will be good for you and good for your customers in the long term, rather than just through the pandemic. So, yeah, I think that's really important. Sorry, Eric.
No, that's okay. But Ivan, just to follow up, I mean, you started talking about the different sectors that are happening. So maybe I'd like to explore that with y'all about this shift that we're seeing, because they always talk about China was really dominant in the 3 C's, right? The computers, communications, and the consumer markets. And then I always thought of Mexico as the 3 A's, right? The automotive, the aeronautics, and the appliances, right? The big heavy thing. Does that still hold true? How is that changing? Or are you seeing people from maybe those traditional 3 C's coming over as well?
No, I mean, when you say about the appliances and of course domotics, home automation, now the people is having more time in home. So a lot of home improvements, right? They are doing more laundry than before because they had more time in house. So if you go to the Home Depot store, you need to make 20 minutes line to get into, because everybody is buying. Is buying that to do a little bit of automation in home, a little bit of new home appliance. So that's true. And you know, what we are seeing right now is that industry transformation, when there is a merge between the traditional PCB assembly with a little bit of semicon technologies and optics. Things that in Thailand, Philippines have been doing a lot to do all the optics assembly, right now is coming into Mexico. So right now, just to sell a pick and place machine is not enough. We need to go into the back end segment for the semicon and for the optics, because the new products are doing a big merge. A lot of the medicals, as Bernardo say, about the respirators and other products that of course requires to improve the current supply chains and technologies that the electronic industry is doing. So basically these companies are no longer a PCB assemblers only. Right now we are doing a very complex products that is the next technology for cards, for home appliance, for everything.
Okay. Good. And Juan, as you're engaging with the clients and consulting and advising them, what are you seeing?
Well, I'm seeing more Chinese-based companies, which is very interesting, exploring to move to Mexico, and some of them are already executing, which, I mean, in the past were more companies that had some type of operations or outsourcing services in China, moving those services into Mexico, or same EMS companies that have facilities in both China and Mexico, just moving projects from one location to another location. But lately we've seen more and more requests of Chinese companies establishing in Mexico, which is very interesting. And now that Foxconn just made the announcement that they are planning to expand operations in Juarez, and that they mentioned that they are currently supplying like 30% of their production out of China, in some other countries, and that number will increase in the coming years. And that increase Mexico will be a good participant of that. That will open a lot of doors, because when it comes to a Chinese company establishing in Mexico, we start facing cultural ways of operating, of setting up business, of taking decisions. Usually they are very bureaucratic and slow on taking decisions. We need to understand that Chinese are still on a semi-protected governmental environment. So we are kind of rivals, you know, and if they express their desire to move to Mexico within their government, then it comes a little bit trickier. But when you see a monster like Foxconn moving operations from to Mexico, I think that window will be bigger, and more companies will start to move faster. They have to take very slow steps right now to move to another location. They need to report everything to their government, every single step. Everything has to be very crystal clear. And again, with a big guy like Foxconn opening way for them, it's going to be much more faster in the future. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, everybody's watching to see what these very large companies do to follow up on that. Bernardo, I wanted to ask you, are companies looking to move some of their product out of China, so doing a China +1 or a China +2 strategy, or are you seeing companies actually saying, you know, let's move all of it? Is it just a rebalancing, or is there a big shift?
What I'm seeing is a rebalancing, and not only to Mexico, as well to other countries in Asia, and some of them a little bit in Vietnam, some of them a little bit in India. Mm-hmm. But just what they are realizing is they cannot really depend on one country. And I believe at the very beginning we saw pretty much everybody wanted to come to Mexico, and then Trump started fighting with Mexico as well. So they were like, okay, it's not an easy solution.
As people do look at that mix of their supply chain, the speed that they can adapt, the speed that they can move that supply chain becomes really important. Okay. Ivan, when you look at the kind of mix that people are buying, are they buying stuff that gives them more agility? When you look at these global players, are they looking at lines that are perhaps more digitally enabled, that give them more flexibility? It's faster to put up new products, that kind of thing?
Yes, all the new equipment acquisitions are based on fast startup, fast or quick changeovers. So that are the main strategy for the companies. And of course, we need to be with them hand by hand with the social distancing, helping them to do all the ramp up, because they need to move from 0 to 100% in 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah. Just to go back to you, Bernardo, because your tech seems to have fixed itself.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that? Are you seeing a demand not just to do that rebalancing, but to be able to actually shift production quickly? Because in the future, we don't know what the next crisis or disruption will be.
Correct.
Yeah. So more agility, more adaptability is the key.
And less dependency on one single location or one single supplier.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, Phil, Flex has a big advantage against many of the companies in the industry, because they have the capability to move complete lines within Asia to China in just a few weeks. Yeah. So shutting down, and 4 weeks after, they are 100% in Mexico. Same equipment.
Yeah.
So the people like Dave Dunn working in asset management is one of the best, or the best in the industry in negotiations and equipment relocation. So that is a big advantage that Flex has. Other companies like Francisco was talking about, Foxconn, they had a lot of investment in a different operations in Mexico, but they didn't invest in new technology for many, many years. But it's starting in 2019, they opened the wallet, a lot of new equipment in Tijuana and Juarez and in Guadalajara. So
Yeah.
Miscoll is moving very fast between 2018 and 2020. I mean, the news that you was talking about Pegatron, that is something that is going to, I mean, they have been for many years in Mexico, but in a small operation. This new announcement is also to enhance the current capabilities in Mexico. So a lot of expectations in companies like Pegatron also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask, one of the challenges I always felt that Mexico faced was from the supply base, right? Because I just saw somebody talking this week that says there's still only 2 bare printed circuit board manufacturers who are UL certified in Mexico. Most of that activity still is in Asia-based. You know, it's not up in the United States either. A lot of that is over in Asia. And I remember a stat used to be that it was over 90% of the electronic components being assembled on boards were being imported over from China, which is, we refer to as a very deep supply base over there. So how is that changing? What are you seeing? I mean, Juan, you just mentioned that, you know, working with a metal company, my goodness, so things are changing there, but so what are you seeing? How is that improving for Mexico?
Yes, it's improving, and I mean we need to be also realistic that China maybe they will not longer be the factory world, but they will remain having a lot of capacity, and they will have most of the supply chain developed within the region. So that is going to be very difficult to change, but things are starting to improve. I mean, it's going to be slow, but again, as raw materials or basic materials, minerals and metals start moving from Mexico, that is like the first step for some of the other raw material components and millings and to start. But it's coming, and it's coming after the supply chain gets established in Mexico.
Interesting. Ivan, are you seeing the same?
Yes. Yes. I mean, that supply chain is still some companies that wants to have some allocations of the materials, but most of them are looking to have more savings, moving everything, all the supply chains to Mexico. So that helps to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Bernardo and Juan, you were both involved with Flex when they first moved down to Guadalajara. Their model was very much to build a network of suppliers around them. You know, you had almost like a strip mall at the facility there, so you could have metalwork facilities nearby, and that's helped the supply chain develop, particularly in Guadalajara. So it's certainly something that the large EMS companies can influence, isn't it, Bernardo?
It is. And the problem, though, is that Mexico didn't do a good job on the supply chain. At the end of the day, we are still bringing a lot of the supplies from China and Asia. So I think until we do that is when we will really pick up. But at the end of the day, moving parts is better than moving the whole product. So this is still a good assembly portion of the process.
Yeah, and you're adding value, and you're adding revenue to Mexico. Eric, perhaps we should wrap up with a what's the future for Mexico question.
Yeah, no, listen, and we will, and thank you. What I keep, as I'm hearing this and we're talking about that shift, and the question I guess I ask is it sustainable, right? So the shift is happening, but will there be this immediate snapback to a degree post-COVID when people say, oh, we can take our pill or our shot, and now COVID's handled, and does it go back, or what is the future of Mexico now? Will they be able to hold on to and retain this business that they've been winning? And maybe Juan, you're the consultant telling people what to do. What are you seeing?
Well, I will say that we have to be very careful on what we really want to bring in and what it's coming just by a natural flow. Remember, there is still a fight that we are sitting and waiting to see who's going to be the winner. There is a trade being discussed right now between the US and China. That is going to be driving a lot of the decisions from the companies. But I don't think that we want to be manufacturer of consumers anymore. We will have some consumers that are freight sensitive, like not the appliances, but some of other consumer products. Actually, I'm talking with a company that makes hair dryers, but big hair dryers, and they're considering that. But the rest, we don't want to fall into the same situation that we were in the late 90s, early 2000s, where everything just went away and we have to reinvent ourselves. I think we have right now 15 to 20 years of maturity in the industry where we are supplying not only printed circuit boards assembly, PCBAs, but we're also adding value. As Ivan mentioned, he's supplying equipment for the back end of the production. We're doing build to order, configure to order. We're shipping directly to the distribution center of the customers. We're getting into more and more complex type of industries and services. So I think that the consumer products could be a good adding to what we already have, but I believe that we should focus on expanding our services on more complex type of products and services. And be very careful with products that just can go away very easily in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, interesting. Bernardo, how do you see it, sir?
What I believe is that customers are really understanding all the risks and they are analyzing and so on. But at the end of the day, it's the cost of the product that we will gain, and we might get some product back to China, or maybe some initiatives to stop by just because it's cheaper still to do it there, right? So as well as Juan Frank was saying, there might be a mix of products depending on the product, the complexity, the size, the weight, and that might come to us. But the small stuff, I don't think it will come back, even though they will think about it. We will try to give, they will force us to give China prices. At the end of the day, I think it's a matter of prices that will decide where to go.
Right, very. And Ivan, what are you saying? What's your opinion on that, the future?
Yeah, well, you know, Asia is using a lot of automation also. So companies like Quanta, that they don't have a lot of presence in America, they are currently using thousands of robots into their manufacturing lines. So the Chinese labor is being replaced by robot, or the way of the labor is changing to supervise a lot of robots. So that is some of the trends in the technology that can come to Mexico also, because we see year over year more automated lines. And that is the opportunity to bring a little bit of the consumer products, because if we bring a fully automated lines, then the cost of assembly in Mexico will be the same that in China. So it's just going to be a matter of logistics.
Yeah, I think that digital transformation is huge, and I see that as being very important. I agree with Bernardo that people are looking to reorganize supply chains, but they don't want to pay more for their products. So price is always king in these things. And my big takeaway message for Juan is chaos means consultancy. So if you're in that business, then people need help. So you know, that's interesting. But I think, you know, good times ahead for Mexico. There's plenty of opportunity there. It's a fantastic industry. It's very, very impressive in terms of its capacity and capability. And that bodes well for the future. But you don't want to build China in Mexico. You want to build Mexico and pick and choose and build the right product. For me, that's the key. Yeah.
No, and I will agree with that, Phil. I've always felt that, especially Guadalajara, is just a very special place in the global electronics, you know, world, and it's very unique, it's very special, and it's very competent. And And I think I've been a big fan of manufacturing in Mexico for 20 years.
And such a fun place to be.
It is.
One of my favorite towns in the world.
Yeah, no. So hopefully we all get to go back there again sometime, right, Phil?
I'm sure we will.
I'm sure we will. But gentlemen, we need to wrap. So I just want to thank each of you, Bernardo, Ivan, Juan, for taking the time today, for coming, for sharing your thoughts and your experiences with us. I'm sure the audience has appreciated that. We do these every 2 weeks to the audience. So please look for more episodes of this. We have several more scheduled. And in the meantime, I'll just say thank you to Phil again for the collaboration, Bernardo, Ivan, and Juan for your participation today. Thank you, gentlemen, and stay safe out there, please.
Thank you, likewise.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye for now.